Yeah, I'd rather not talk about any specific work, but I think we're still in an era with this new technology where there's a confusion between demonstration and creation. There's a confusion between documentation and invention, and I think it's not always clear where it might become very clear in terms of plastic media, plastic arts, where you can see something and you can say, well, that's certainly not a painting, it's something else. Even though within the history of the plastic arts, conceptual art has fortunately screwed up the scene and made it very complex, as it should do. In the sense that a document could be on the wall and its status could be that of a work of art, or a description of a work of art, or a description of art. It can move through various kinds of levels. I don't think that's quite what is working in terms of new media. I think equally there's a danger, and I'm not talking specifically about this show at all, but you asked me generally, of a kind of academicism arising, that there's a kind of mantra, apropos interactivity, for example, or there's a kind of mantra, apropos emergence, that gets reiterated, that gets repeated. And the critique that is alleged to exist within our field is less a critique of those mantras and more a social critique about technology. And I think that gives rise to another kind of confusion. There are many works, and there are certainly many so-called theoretical papers which appear to be addressing issues of the aesthetics of new media, but in fact are discussing issues around the social situation of technology. And it's not clearly separated out, and there's a great confusion in that field. I think this will settle down in time, but of course it will settle down because we're moving not away from and not beyond necessarily in the sense of progress, but we're moving out of the boundaries of digital art as is expressed through the screen, or as is expressed through responsive environments, or as is expressed through AI, robotics, or situations like that. We're moving into what I call moist media. We're moving into this, you mentioned convergence. Yeah, I think this convergence is beginning to be with wet molecular science. And that's an area which interests me. I think keeping the tension between strictly, in the old sense, digital media and biological media, keeping a tension between what is possible in these fields is important, rather than a sort of, in a sense, burying our heads in the academic interpretation of classical, which we can now say classical digital art. After all, it's 25 years. People are now writing the history of digital art. It's just 25 years old. And old works of art are becoming kind of iconic. And that's a danger. That's a big danger sign as far as I'm concerned.